Welcome everyone to what might be the most important conversation about success you'll ever have. I'm here today to challenge everything you think you know about wealth, achievement, and what it truly means to win in the 21st century. Picture this. It's 1937, and a young Napoleon Hill publishes Think and Grow Rich, a book that would go on to sell over 100 million copies and fundamentally shape how generations think about success. Hill's message was revolutionary for its time. Your thoughts create your reality. Persistence conquers all obstacles, and anyone can achieve wealth through the right mindset and systematic action. But here's what Napoleon Hill couldn't have predicted: that the very success principles he championed would eventually contribute to a world where the top 1% own more wealth than the bottom 50% combined, where our planet is heating up at an alarming rate, and where depression and anxiety rates are at all-time highs despite unprecedented material prosperity. Now, before you think I'm about to trash Napoleon Hill's legacy, I'm not. His principles are as powerful today as they were nearly a century ago, but like any great framework, they need to evolve. They need to be upgraded for a world where your success is intimately connected to the health of our communities, our environment, and our collective future. This is where regenerative success comes in, a revolutionary approach that takes Hill's timeless wisdom and applies it to create wealth that doesn't just accumulate in your bank account, but actively heals the world around you. It's success that regenerates rather than depletes, that builds up rather than tears down, that creates abundance for everyone rather than scarcity for many. Think of traditional success like a coal-powered factory from the 1932nd. It produces results, but it also produces pollution, waste, and long-term damage. Regenerative success is like a solar-powered facility with a vertical farm on the roof. It not only produces what you need, but it gives back more than it takes, creating clean energy and fresh food for the entire community. Over the next hour, we're going to dive deep into 8 powerful principles that will completely transform how you think about achievement, wealth, and impact. We'll explore how entrepreneurs like Yvon Chouinard, Sarah Blakely, and Elon Musk aren't just building fortunes, they're building futures. We'll discover how companies like Patagonia, Interface Inc., and Tesla are proving that doing good and doing well aren't just compatible. They're synergistic. But this isn't just about billion-dollar companies and celebrity entrepreneurs. Every principle we discuss can be applied whether you're a college student with a side hustle, a corporate employee looking to make a difference, or an entrepreneur ready to launch your next venture. The beautiful thing about regenerative success is that it scales, from individual actions to global movements. So grab your notebook, settle in, and prepare to completely reframe your relationship with success. Because by the end of this journey, you won't just know how to build wealth, you'll know how to build a legacy that makes the world better for generations to come. Let me start with a story that perfectly illustrates what we're talking about. In 1994, a young outdoor enthusiast named Yvon Chouinard was running a small climbing gear company called Patagonia. The company was doing well, but Chouinard noticed something troubling. The very outdoor spaces that inspired his business were being destroyed by industrial practices, including some used by companies in his own industry. Traditional business wisdom would have said, "That's not your problem. Focus on profits. Leave the environmental stuff to someone else." But Chouinard had a different vision. What if his company could become a force for environmental restoration while still being profitable? What if success meant leaving the world better than you found it? Fast forward to today. Patagonia generates over $1 billion in annual revenue, has one of the most loyal customer bases in the world, and has donated over $140 million to environmental causes. In 2022, Chouinard made headlines by donating the entire company, worth approximately $3 billion, to fight climate change. But here's the kicker. This decision didn't hurt the business. In fact, it strengthened it. Sales increased, employee retention improved, and the brand's value skyrocketed. This is regenerative success in action, a fundamental shift from the extractive model of wealth creation to a regenerative one. But what exactly do we mean by regenerative? Let's break it down. In nature, regenerative systems don't just sustain themselves, they actually improve their environment over time. Think about a healthy forest. It doesn't just take nutrients from the soil. It creates richer soil through fallen leaves and root networks. It doesn't just use water, it purifies and stores it. It doesn't just occupy space, It creates habitat for countless other species. Traditional success models, even the most ethical ones, tend to be extractive. They take resources, whether that's natural materials, human talent, or community assets, and convert them into personal wealth. The goal is typically to maximize extraction while minimizing cost. Even when companies engage in corporate social responsibility, it's usually treated as a separate activity from core business operations. Regenerative success flips this model on its head. Instead of asking, how can I extract maximum value from this system? It asks, how can I create maximum value for this system while achieving my goals? It's the difference between mining and gardening. Consider the story of Ray Anderson, former CEO of Interface Inc., one of the world's largest carpet manufacturers. In the 1992nd, Anderson had what he called his spear in the chest moment when he read Paul Hawken's book, The Ecology of Commerce. He realized that his company was, in his words, plundering the earth to make carpets. Anderson could have ignored this realization. After all, Interface was highly profitable, and he was nearing retirement. Instead, he embarked on what he called Mission Zero, a commitment to eliminate the company's environmental footprint by 2020. Many thought he was crazy. How could a manufacturing company eliminate its environmental impact and remain profitable? The transformation was remarkable. Interface invested in renewable energy, developed recyclable carpet tiles, and even started manufacturing carpets that were carbon negative, meaning they removed more CO2 from the atmosphere than they produced. They reduced water usage by 88%, cut greenhouse gas emissions by 96%, and increased the use of renewable energy to 88% of total energy needs. The financial results? Interface became more profitable than ever. The company saved over $500 million through efficiency improvements, attracted top talent who wanted to work for a purpose-driven company, and built stronger relationships with environmentally conscious customers. Anderson proved that regenerative practices weren't just compatible with profitability, they enhanced it. This brings us to the core paradox of regenerative success. By giving more, you receive more. It's like the old saying about love. The more you give away, the more you have. But unlike feel-good platitudes, this principle has solid economics behind it. When you operate regeneratively, you tap into what economists call positive externalities, benefits that extend beyond your immediate transaction. A solar panel company doesn't just sell products, it contributes to cleaner air that everyone breathes. An educational platform doesn't just serve paying customers, it creates a more skilled workforce that benefits the entire economy. A sustainable fashion brand doesn't just make clothes, it helps shift an entire industry toward more responsible practices. These positive externalities create what we might call success momentum, a virtuous cycle where your achievements amplify each other. Customers become advocates, employees become missionaries, competitors become collaborators, and challenges become opportunities for innovation. But regenerative success isn't just about environmental sustainability, though that's certainly a crucial component. It's about creating systems that regenerate social capital, human potential, economic opportunity, and cultural vitality. It's about understanding that in our interconnected world, your success is ultimately tied to the success of your community, your industry, and your planet. Think of it this way. If traditional success is like being the richest person in a declining neighborhood, regenerative success is like being prosperous in a thriving community. Which would you choose? Practical applications. 1. The stakeholder audit. List all the stakeholders affected by your work: customers, employees, suppliers, community, environment. For each stakeholder, identify one way your success could benefit them directly. 2. The 100-year vision. Ask yourself, if my business career were still thriving 100 years from now, what would the world look like because of my work? This long-term thinking naturally leads to regenerative practices. 3. The value web mapping. Instead of thinking in linear terms, inputs to outputs to profits, map out how your work creates value webs that benefit multiple parties simultaneously. 4. The regeneration ratio. For every resource you consume or every dollar you earn, identify how you can give back 1.1x in value to the system. This slight surplus creates the regenerative effect. 5. The impact integration. Instead of treating social environmental impact as a separate giving back activity, integrate it into your core value proposition. How can doing good become central to doing well? Napoleon Hill wrote extensively about the power of mindset, particularly the difference between a success consciousness and a poverty consciousness. But in our current era, we need to evolve this concept even further. We need to understand the difference between what I call scarcity success and abundance regeneration. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two entrepreneurs starting food delivery companies. The first entrepreneur, let's call him Marcus, operates from a scarcity mindset. He sees the market as a zero-sum game. Every customer his competitors gain is a customer he loses. He focuses on cutting costs, maximizing short-term profits, and building market share by undercutting others. He treats drivers as expendable resources, customers as revenue sources, and restaurants as necessary evils to be squeezed for better margins. Marcus might build a successful company by traditional metrics. He might even become quite wealthy, but his success comes at a cost. Driver turnover is high, customer loyalty is low, restaurant partners are constantly frustrated, and the community sees his company as a necessary but somewhat predatory service. Now, consider the second entrepreneur. Let's call her Sophia. Sophia operates from what we'll call an abundance regeneration mindset. She sees the market as expandable. By creating more value, she can grow the entire pie rather than just fighting for a bigger slice. She focuses on creating sustainable systems that benefit all stakeholders. Drivers earn living wages and receive benefits, customers get exceptional service and discover new restaurants, and restaurant partners grow their businesses through the platform. Sophia's approach might seem more expensive initially, but here's what happens. Drivers stay longer and provide better service because they're invested in the company's success. Customers become advocates who refer friends and order more frequently. Restaurants partner more closely, offering exclusive deals and better food quality. The community views her company as a positive force that's creating jobs and supporting local businesses. The result? Sophia's company grows faster, has higher profit margins despite paying drivers more, and builds sustainable competitive advantages that are difficult to replicate. More importantly, Sophia's success creates success for everyone in her ecosystem. This is the fundamental shift from scarcity success to abundance regeneration. It's based on a profound understanding that we live in a world of interconnected systems where creating value for others is the most reliable way to create value for yourself. Let me share another story that illustrates this beautifully. In the early 2000s, Muhammad Yunus, an economics professor in Bangladesh, noticed that traditional banks wouldn't lend to the poorest people in his country, particularly women, because they had no collateral and were considered unbankable. The conventional wisdom was that these people were bad credit risks who would default on loans. Yunus had a different hypothesis. What if the problem wasn't that poor people were unreliable, but that the banking system wasn't designed to serve them effectively? What if he could create a system that would work for everyone? He started Grameen Bank with a revolutionary model. Micro loans to groups of women with no collateral required, but with social accountability built in. Groups of 5 women would receive loans, but if one defaulted, the others couldn't get additional credit until the issue was resolved. This created peer support and accountability that traditional collateral couldn't match. The results defied all conventional wisdom. Grameen Bank achieved a loan repayment rate of over 95%, higher than most traditional banks. The women who received loans started small businesses, improved their families' health and education, and lifted entire communities out of poverty. Yunus wasn't just running a successful bank, he was regenerating social and economic capital on a massive scale. In 2006, Yunus and Grameen Bank won the Nobel Peace Prize. Today, microfinance has become a global movement that has reached hundreds of millions of people. Yunus proved that you could build a thriving business by serving those whom others had written off, and in doing so, create prosperity that rippled through entire societies. This is what abundance regeneration looks like in practice. It's based on several key principles. Principle 1, wealth is created, not just redistributed. Scarcity thinking assumes that wealth is a fixed pie. If someone gets richer, someone else must get poorer. Abundance thinking recognizes that wealth is constantly being created through innovation, collaboration, and value creation. When you solve problems and meet needs, you literally create wealth that didn't exist before. Principle 2. Systems thinking over linear. Thinking scarcity success focuses on direct, linear relationships. Input X resources, get Y results. Abundance regeneration thinks in systems. How does my success create conditions for others' success, which in turn creates more opportunities for my success? Principle 3. Long-term optimization over short-term extraction. Scarcity success optimizes for immediate returns, often at the expense of long-term sustainability. Abundance regeneration optimizes for sustainable compound growth that gets stronger over time. Principle 4. Collaboration over competition. While healthy competition drives innovation, abundance regeneration recognizes that the biggest opportunities often come from collaboration, creating value that no single party could create alone. Let me give you a more personal example of how this mindset shift can work. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, could have approached the shapewear industry from a scarcity mindset, fight for market share against established lingerie companies, cut costs to compete on price, and protect her innovations from competitors. Instead, Blakely operated from abundance regeneration. She focused on creating a product that genuinely solved women's problems, not just competing with existing solutions. She built a company culture that celebrated women's success rather than promoting unhealthy body image. She actively mentored other female entrepreneurs and invested in their businesses through her foundation. When competitors emerged, instead of seeing them as threats, Blakely saw them as validation that she had identified a real market need. The competition actually helped expand the market and educate consumers, benefiting everyone in the space. Meanwhile, Spanx's focus on quality, innovation, and brand values kept them ahead of imitators. The result? Blakely became the youngest self-made female billionaire in history. Spanx revolutionized an entire industry, and her success opened doors for countless other female entrepreneurs. Her abundance mindset created abundance not just for herself, but for an entire ecosystem. Practical applications. The abundance audit. For 1 week, track every time you think in zero-sum terms. If they win, I lose. For each instance, challenge yourself to find a win-win alternative. The value creation exercise. Instead of asking, how can I get more? Ask, how can I create more value? Spend 15 minutes each day brainstorming ways to create value for others in your industry or community. The ecosystem mapping. Draw a map of everyone who benefits when you succeed: customers, suppliers, employees, community, environment. Look for ways to amplify these benefits. The collaboration challenge. Identify 3 people or organizations you might typically see as competitors. Brainstorm potential collaboration opportunities that could benefit everyone involved. The legacy question. Before making any significant decision, ask, will this decision create conditions for others to succeed after I'm gone? This long-term thinking naturally leads to regenerative choices. We're living through what many economists call the transition from the information economy to the purpose economy. This isn't just a trendy concept. It's a fundamental shift in how value is created and exchanged in our modern world. And if you want to build regenerative success, understanding this shift is absolutely crucial. Let me start with a story that perfectly illustrates this transformation. In 2011, Blake Mycoskie was traveling in Argentina when he encountered children who had no shoes, a situation that made them vulnerable to diseases, prevented them from attending school, and limited their opportunities in countless ways. A traditional business approach might have been to identify this as a market opportunity. Poor children need shoes. I could manufacture cheap shoes and sell them in developing countries. Instead, Mycoskie had a different vision. What if he could create a sustainable business model that would address this problem systemically rather than just profitably? This insight led to the creation of Tom's Shoes with their revolutionary one-for-one model. For every pair of shoes purchased, Tom's would donate a pair to a child in need. Now, skeptics initially dismissed this as a marketing gimmick. How could a company survive giving away half of its production? Wouldn't this just create unsustainable costs that would eventually bankrupt the business? But something remarkable happened. Tom's didn't just survive, it thrived. Within 6 years, the company had given away over 60 million pairs of shoes and expanded into eyewear and clean water initiatives. The company was valued at over $600 million when Microski sold half of it to Bain Capital in 2014. More importantly, Tom's sparked an entire movement. The one-for-one model has been adopted by hundreds of companies across industries. Warby Parker does it with eyeglasses, Bombas does it with socks, and countless other companies have found ways to integrate giving into their core business model. But here's what's really fascinating. The success of Tom's wasn't just about feel-good marketing. It was about tapping into a fundamental shift in consumer behavior and employee motivation. Millennials and Gen Z consumers, who now represent the majority of purchasing power, actively seek out brands that align with their values. They're willing to pay premium prices for products that create positive impact, and they're more likely to become loyal advocates for purpose-driven brands. Similarly, top talent increasingly wants to work for companies that provide meaning and purpose, not just paychecks. A Deloitte study found that purpose-driven companies have 30% higher levels of innovation and 40% higher levels of workforce retention compared to their competitors. When employees feel like their work matters beyond just generating profits, they bring more creativity, commitment, and passion to their roles. This brings us to a crucial insight. In the purpose economy, purpose isn't just a nice-to-have add-on to business strategy. It's becoming a competitive advantage, and in many cases, a necessity for long-term success. Let me give you another example that really drives this point home. Tony Hsieh, the late CEO of Zappos, could have built just another online shoe retailer focused on competitive pricing and efficient logistics. Instead, he decided to build what he called a service company that happens to sell shoes. Zappos' purpose wasn't just to sell footwear. It was to deliver happiness to customers, employees, and the broader community. This purpose-driven approach influenced every aspect of the business. Zappos offered free shipping both ways and a 365-day return policy, policies that seemed financially irresponsible to competitors. They empowered customer service representatives to spend hours on calls with customers, even when those calls didn't result in immediate sales. They invested heavily in company culture and employee happiness, creating an environment that felt more like a community than a traditional workplace. The results spoke for themselves. Zappos grew from startup to over $1 billion in annual sales. Customer loyalty was extraordinarily high, with repeat customers accounting for 75% of sales. Employee satisfaction consistently ranked among the highest in the industry. In 2009, Amazon acquired Zappos for $1.2 billion, recognizing that the company's purpose-driven culture was its most valuable asset. But the purpose economy isn't just about B2C companies with feel-good missions. Even in B2B industries, companies are discovering that having a clear sense of purpose creates sustainable competitive advantages. Consider Salesforce, the cloud computing giant founded by Mark Benioff. From the beginning, Benioff didn't just want to build a successful software company. He wanted to democratize access to enterprise-level tools and create what he called the social enterprise. Salesforce pioneered the 1-1-1 model, donating 1% of equity, 1% of product, and 1% of employee time to charitable causes. This purpose-driven approach helped Salesforce attract top talent who wanted to work on meaningful projects. It created strong relationships with customers who saw Salesforce as a partner in their own success rather than just a vendor. It generated positive publicity and brand recognition that would have cost millions in traditional marketing, and it fostered a culture of innovation where employees felt empowered to think beyond immediate profit margins. Today, Salesforce is valued at over $150 billion and has become one of the most admired companies in the world. Benioff has used the company's success to advocate for equality, environmental sustainability, and stakeholder capitalism. The company's purpose didn't limit its profitability, it enhanced it. The key insight here is that purpose-driven businesses tend to create what we might call meaning multipliers. When customers, employees, and stakeholders feel like they're part of something larger than a transaction, they invest more of themselves in the relationship. Customers become advocates, employees become innovators, suppliers become partners, and communities become supporters. This creates several powerful business advantages. Enhanced customer loyalty. Purpose-driven brands enjoy higher customer retention rates and lifetime value because customers feel emotionally connected to the mission. Improved talent attraction and retention. Top performers increasingly want to work for companies that offer meaning and impact, not just compensation. Increased innovation. When employees feel connected to a larger purpose, they're more likely to go above and beyond, leading to breakthrough ideas and solutions. Premium pricing power. Consumers are willing to pay more for products and services that align with their values and create positive impact. Crisis resilience. Purpose-driven companies tend to weather economic downturns better because they have stronger stakeholder relationships and clearer long-term vision. Practical applications. The why excavation. Spend time identifying your deeper why, not just what you do or how you do it, but why it matters to the world. Write a one-sentence purpose statement that captures this. The stakeholder purpose check. For each major stakeholder group, customers, employees, suppliers, community, identify how your purpose creates value for them specifically. The purpose integration audit. Review your current business practices, products, and services. Where can you better align them with your stated purpose? The impact measurement system. Develop metrics to track not just financial performance, but progress toward your purpose-driven goals. What gets measured, gets managed. The purpose communication strategy. Find authentic ways to share your purpose with stakeholders without being preachy or self-promotional. Let your actions speak louder than your marketing. For nearly 50 years, the business world has operated under a doctrine called shareholder primacy, the idea that a company's primary obligation is to maximize returns for shareholders. This philosophy, popularized by economist Milton Friedman in the 1972nd, has driven countless business decisions and shaped our understanding of corporate success. But we're witnessing a fundamental shift. In August 2019, the Business Roundtable, an association of CEOs from America's largest corporations, released a statement redefining the purpose of a corporation. Instead of serving shareholders alone, they committed to serving all stakeholders: customers, employees, suppliers, communities, and shareholders. This wasn't just corporate PR, it was an acknowledgement that the old model was breaking down. Let me tell you a story that illustrates why this shift is happening and how it can create extraordinary success. In the 1992nd, Unilever was a typical multinational consumer goods company focused primarily on maximizing shareholder returns through global expansion and cost optimization. They made soap, shampoo, ice cream, and other everyday products, competing primarily on price and distribution. But in 2009, Paul Polman became CEO and radically transformed the company's approach. Instead of focusing solely on shareholder returns, Polman launched the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan, an ambitious initiative to decouple business growth from environmental impact while increasing positive social impact. The plan set audacious goals: improve health and well-being for more than 1 billion people, enhance livelihoods across the value chain, and reduce environmental footprint while doubling the size of the business. Many Wall Street analysts were skeptical. How could a company focused on social and environmental goals compete with rivals who were laser-focused on profits? The results were remarkable. Unilever's sustainable living brands, products that had clear social or environmental benefits, grew 69% faster than the rest of the business and delivered 75% of the company's total growth. Brands like Dove, focused on real beauty and self-esteem, Ben & Jerry's, committed to social justice, and Seventh Generation, environmental sustainability, became some of the company's most profitable and fastest-growing divisions. More importantly, this stakeholder-focused approach created sustainable, competitive advantages. Unilever attracted top talent who wanted to work on meaningful projects. They built deeper relationships with suppliers who saw them as partners in creating positive change. They gained customer loyalty from consumers who felt good about their purchases. They even attracted investors who recognized that stakeholder capitalism created more resilient, long-term returns. By the time Polman stepped down as CEO in 2019, Unilever had outperformed the FTSE 100 index and delivered strong returns to shareholders, not despite focusing on stakeholders, but because of it. This illustrates a crucial principle of regenerative success. When you create value for all stakeholders, you create more durable and profitable value for yourself. But implementing stakeholder capitalism requires a sophisticated understanding of how different stakeholder interests align and sometimes conflict. Let me break down the key stakeholder groups and how regenerative businesses create value for each. Customers. Traditional businesses often view customers as revenue sources to be optimized. Regenerative businesses see customers as partners in creating solutions to meaningful problems. This shifts the focus from extracting maximum short-term value to building long-term relationships based on genuine value creation. Consider how Amazon has evolved beyond just being an e-commerce platform. Through services like Prime, AWS, and Alexa, Amazon has become an integral part of customers' daily lives. They've created an ecosystem where customer success and Amazon success are deeply intertwined. When customers succeed, whether that's growing their business using AWS or saving time with Prime delivery, Amazon succeeds too. Employees. The old model treated employees as costs to be minimized. The new model recognizes employees as the primary creators of value and focuses on unleashing their full potential. This means investing in development, creating meaningful work, and building cultures where people can thrive. Salesforce exemplifies this approach through their Ohana family culture, where employee success is treated as fundamental to business success. They regularly survey employees, provide extensive training and development opportunities, and have implemented equal pay policies to ensure fairness. The result? Consistently high employee satisfaction scores, low turnover, and high levels of innovation. Suppliers. Traditional supply chain management often focused on squeezing suppliers for the lowest possible costs. Regenerative businesses recognize that supplier success is crucial for their own long-term success and work to build mutually beneficial partnerships. Patagonia has pioneered this approach in the apparel industry. Instead of just demanding lower prices from suppliers, they work closely with their manufacturing partners to improve working conditions, reduce environmental impact, and build long-term capacity. They even help suppliers diversify their customer base to reduce dependence on any single buyer. This creates more resilient supply chains and higher quality products. Communities. The stakeholder revolution recognizes that businesses don't exist in isolation. They're part of communities that provide infrastructure, talent, customers, and social license to operate. Successful regenerative businesses actively invest in community health and vitality. Google's approach to community development illustrates this beautifully. When Google expands to new locations, they don't just extract talent from local universities. They invest in educational programs, support local startups, and contribute to community development. This creates a virtuous cycle where community success supports Google's growth, which in turn supports more community development. Environment. Perhaps the most revolutionary aspect of stakeholder capitalism is recognizing the environment as a stakeholder. This means considering environmental impact not as an external cost to be minimized, but as a fundamental constraint and opportunity that shapes business strategy. Interface Inc., the carpet manufacturer I mentioned earlier, demonstrates this perfectly. By treating environmental health as a core stakeholder, they didn't just reduce their environmental impact, they discovered new sources of innovation, cost savings, and competitive advantage. Their Mission Zero initiative led to breakthrough innovations in manufacturing, material science, and supply chain management. Shareholders. Importantly, stakeholder capitalism doesn't ignore shareholders. It recognizes that sustainable shareholder value comes from creating value for all stakeholders. Companies that successfully implement stakeholder capitalism often deliver superior long-term returns to shareholders. The data supports this. A Harvard Business School study found that companies with strong stakeholder orientation outperformed their peers by 2.3% per year in stock returns. Another study by the consulting firm EY found that companies with strong ESG, environmental, social practices had 6% higher profits and were 70% less likely to experience significant stock price declines. But implementing stakeholder capitalism isn't just about good intentions. It requires sophisticated management practices and measurement systems. You need to understand how different stakeholder interests interact, how to make trade-offs when interests conflict, and how to measure success across multiple dimensions. Practical applications. The stakeholder mapping exercise. Create a comprehensive map of all your stakeholders. For each group, identify their key needs, how you currently serve those needs, and opportunities to create more value. The value creation matrix. For each stakeholder group, identify specific ways you can create value that also benefits your business. Look for win-win opportunities where stakeholder success drives your success. The trade-off framework. Develop clear principles for making decisions when stakeholder interests conflict. How will you balance short-term costs against long-term benefits? How will you ensure fairness across different groups? The stakeholder feedback loop. Create regular mechanisms for getting feedback from each stakeholder group. This might include customer surveys, employee engagement scores, supplier relationship assessments, and community impact evaluations. The integrated reporting system. Develop metrics and reporting systems that track value creation for all stakeholders, not just financial returns to shareholders. This integrated view will help you identify opportunities and monitor progress toward regenerative success.